The federal government is moving to ban the use of credit cards for online gambling, bringing it in line with casinos and the pokies. A date hasn't been set, but the government will consult with the industry as it plans to roll out a system like the one that prevents credit card withdrawals from ATMs in Australian casinos.
Australia has the highest gambling losses per adult in the world, with $25 billion lost each year. The government says people should not be betting with money that they don't actually have. Let's bring in Tom Lowry. He's at Parliament House for us this morning. Tom, good morning. So how will this ban work in practice?
Yeah, good morning, Michael. What this ban's trying to do is bring online gambling in line with real-world gambling. Currently, if you go to a racetrack, for example, you can't place a bet with a credit card. If you go to a casino, you can't withdraw cash from an ATM using a credit card. But say if you're at a racetrack and you want to place a bet online, you can simply jump on a sports betting app and do so there. Sports betting apps and other online gambling services allow bets to be placed with credit cards. That's what's going to be phased out here. The fundamental principle is, as you said, that you shouldn't be able to place bets with money that you don't have. The finer details of all of this are still to be worked out. Legislation is going to be introduced later this year, we expect, but there's no firm date on when this will be ended altogether. There's still some consultation to be had with industry too, but there is fairly broad support for this from banks and also from online gambling companies.
OK, let's get more detail on the government's move to ban using credit cards for online betting and bring in the Social Services Minister, Amanda Rishworth, in Sydney. Minister, good morning.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Great to have you on. Why are you doing this?
Look, we want to make sure that we're taking steps to prevent harm in online gambling. The government doesn't begrudge anyone from having a punt, but we know in Australia the harm as a result of online wagering is growing, and we want to look at how we can minimise that. One of the obvious ways to do that is ensuring that people are not betting with money they don't have. So by using a credit card, you're going into debt, and if you're using that for online wagering, you can get yourself into trouble. So when it comes to things like casinos, pokies, they don't have, you're not able to use a credit card for that. So we are wanting to bring in line online wagering and ban the use of credit cards.
It seems odd there's been that disparity in place for so long. Credit cards banned at casinos but still allowed online. Why has it taken so long to move to close this gap?
Look, there's been a House of Representatives report that clearly said we need to do this, so our government has been working through the details of that, and we've now announced that we believe the best path forward is through legislation. We will consult across the implementation of this, and we hope to legislate it later this year. But in terms of action, this really does build on what the government has already done in terms of better taglines to prevent gambling harm. No longer will you see gamble responsibly. You've got a number of better taglines, including you win some, you lose more. So we're taking a number of steps in how we minimise this harm, and banning credit cards is the obvious next step.
Just on that, yes, and we've all noticed those different messages at the end of the sports betting ads, but do you still think there are way too many sports betting ads, particularly in sporting event broadcasts?
Look, in addition, obviously, to this credit card ban, to implementing a number of new measures, the government is very much looking forward to the House of Representatives inquiry into online wagering. It's looking at a whole range of areas, including advertising. We look forward to those recommendations, and certainly there is an appetite for a discussion about what comes next with my state and territory colleagues. I convened them for the first time since 2007 recently, where we had a discussion about how we minimise harm. So I think there is really important conversations that includes advertising, it includes other areas where we can actually start to continue to take steps to reduce harm.
OK, to another subject. As the Minister for Social Services, do you agree that $50 a day is simply not enough for job seeker recipients to live on?
Look, I've always said that it is difficult to live on income support. It's not easy. And we will continue as a government to work through how we can best support our most disadvantaged and vulnerable people. As the Treasurer and the Finance Minister has said, the focus of our budget will be around cost of living, particularly targeted for our most vulnerable and disadvantaged people in this country. It includes energy relief, but we will, and certainly as Minister, continue to work through the best way that we can support our most vulnerable and disadvantaged with cost of living.
Well, you've got at least 10 on my count, Labor MPs, your very own colleagues, demanding the job seeker payment be increased in the budget. You've got a bit of a political problem here, haven't you, Minister?
Well, look, as I said, I'm very committed to working with government members about how we best tackle cost of living and disadvantage. And I'm not surprised that Labor members care about tackling disadvantage. And so I'm really very much going to be working with my colleagues. And we have a budget coming up in just over a week's time, in which, as the Treasurer and Finance Minister has said, there will be a package of how we support our most vulnerable.
Well, Labor MPs, and I'm guessing you and all of your colleagues, campaigned before the election on protecting the vulnerable. If a Labor government got in, the vulnerable will be protected. And I hear you about the looming energy bill relief we're expecting to see in the budget. But by not raising support payments like Job Seeker, won't you in many respects be abandoning Australia's most vulnerable?
Well, look, we have a lot of pressures on the budget, but as I've said, we will focus on how we support people, how we support those most vulnerable in this next budget, and I will continue to work with my colleagues in doing that. You'll have to wait to see what's in the budget, and you don't have to wait too long now, just over a week and a bit's time.